Hello and welcome to another video. So we're trying to come up with some ideas for videos. I was looking for shadow decks that I could mess around with. Fortunately, mid-shadow is something that I could work in. So this deck is probably not the best possible mid-shadow, of course, and it's definitely only limited by what you can play in it. I've actually got two Gremmaries, but I've only put one in this deck as I didn't feel like it was that substantial because you do need a board to get it to work. That's why we're actually running two Vial instead of running two Gremmary here and just swapping those out. But you could quite easily swap out Vials and Gremmaries in any kind of order you would like, as I think they're the most interchangeable card in this structure of deck. Otherwise, everything else is pretty standard mid-shadow, focusing of course, board pressure and constantly having a board to take advantage of Demon Lord, Vial of Torrent, Gremary, all those big booster cards that can get you a lot of burst damage and just sustainability. So we're going to get right into this and check it out. So the Unlimited meta has kind of been all over the place. I've seen a little bit of everything while playing Unlimited, and it's no surprise as most Unlimited decks are reasonably balanced out now compared to what it used to be like. Of course, Blood is still pretty severely dominant in Unlimited, I think, but we definitely have seen a drop-off after the first week of the expansion to where Blood just isn't as popular on ladder as it was, especially since the Grand Prix, of course, has been happened, and that really affected how the meta kind of shifted a little bit. Even though it's definitely still probably the more oppressive deck in the meta, it's definitely dropped off, and we're seeing a lot more Dragon and Rune type decks around, even in Unlimited. But I wanted to give Shadow a go. I don't cover too many Shadow decks, I also don't cover many Dragon or Forest decks, but when I do, I like to at least give them a go. So we're getting pretty solid results here, mainly just kind of stacking our board up, trying to develop something that we can take advantage of with Prince of Catacomb, while at the same time drawing cards to really take advantage of that as well. And at this point, it's mainly just a matter of getting Lady Grey out, building a board up next turn, and then going from there. And this Dragon player is looking to be fairly aggressive. I've fought a few Dragon players in Unlimited now, and Roof's Dragon decks seem to be pretty consistent ones on ladder. But I wanted a fun mid-shadow deck that I could mess around with and try some of these new cards like Cerberus out in, and Gremary I never got a chance last expansion to play it because I didn't have any, but crafted some up at the start of this one and wanted to at least give her a go. Plus, I've really enjoyed Cerberus. She does quite a wonderful job at this point. And her evolve effect actually typically works out. So it looks like we're actually playing against a Highlander Dragon deck. This one piqued my interest a little bit. Mainly for just being a Highlander deck. But we're looking to have a fairly consistent next turn. We can quite comfortably play Lady Grey, heal back up, get another follower, and probably leave a board spot because we don't want to risk locking ourselves out of next turn using Demon Lord. This deck can definitely be on the quick side, but at the same time it's got a really solid late game, so you're not too worried about getting to that late game section of a match. Looks like they are trying to defend themselves so they can heal up. Unfortunate for them, we've pretty much got a guaranteed lethal at this point with either Demon Lord or Vial of Torrent. Of course, probably just Demon Lord because Vial of Torrent isn't playable next turn, but, I mean, could you really compete with that? Or top deck Gremary, why not? That's a little bit better than playing the Demon Lord, as Evolve is going to definitely take precedence, so why not play it that way? And our next matchup is Shadow on Shadow. So Arcus Shadow and Fairy Shadow seem to be some of the more popular Shadow decks, especially in rotation if you're going to play Shadow at all. Unfortunately, they're two of the decks that I just don't have the cards for, otherwise I probably would have gave them a go. In Unlimited though, there's a lot of variety to Shadow decks. We're definitely seeing a lot of difference in decks, and that's not a big surprise. Unlimited's card pool is absolutely huge now, especially with, of course, the last expansion being pretty massive, and this one also being pretty decent as well when it comes to cards that can really pump up decks. So going for a pretty small Belinus, no real issue here. Skull Ring's going to be a pretty comfortable play, setting up for Prince Catacomb to really build a sticky board. And Belinus, not too much of a problem again, a second one. I probably would have worried more if they had have played their own Skull Ring, as I think that would have been a little more dangerous. because we wouldn't have had that sticky factor, but now we can pretty much just go face. We're not worried about their Prince of Catacomb or anything. they're pretty much going to have to trade off here in some way, shape or form, and for us that's a great advantage to have. A little disappointed I couldn't have got a better ping there, but we'll take what we can get when we can get it.
Why are you letting me live?
And the Friend Monster Girl, pretty consistent card. I considered it in this deck, but decided to go for just a different approach with a more generic mid-shadow vibe. And now we just need to make sure our turn 5 is going to be decent. And with Bone Chimera, that shouldn't be too hard. Of course, the Evo on the Bone Chimera is a little rough because, of course, we're going to lose it to the Bellinus here anyway. But I may as well take advantage of anything I can get now, since we are probably going to go for the Cerberus and Skull Beast on turn 6 anyway. Pretty much regardless of what happens. So they are soul conversioning this Bellinus, which is pretty perfect for us. It's definitely better they did that than attacking. So we're going to get to play Cerberus, play out the Skull Beast. With a slight Evo on the Cerberus here, we're going to be able to kill off the 3-5, and of course, Cerberus's Evo effect giving us a pretty nice ping effect, basically Bellinus for the whole board. And Death's Breath is definitely not a problem. Since we do have Demon Lord, taking these out is going to be very, very easy. Not really going to be any problems at all to this board. And we're going to get a nice 7 damage to face, while setting up for a second Demon Lord or Vial of Torrent next turn. We've also got some removal, which is going to be quite decent as well. It's definitely one of those decks where it's very easy to build a board and stick with it. The only real trouble I had was against Blood, because they're just that aggressive. Unless you get a quite aggressive hand yourself and can deal with some of the bigger threats that come down early, it's really a tough match to win. At least with this deck in particular. There are other decks that have a much better advantage against Blood decks, and they're not too far in between. There's plenty of decent counters out there. So we've built up a board, we've dealt some damage. They've gone for a second Death's Breath. Again, not really a problem. Demon Lord is going to secure us lethal, since they didn't have enough shadows to get ward. I'm going to close the game right there. So actually I had quite a bit of fun playing this deck. It definitely brought back the old memories of oppressive shadow decks, and that's not exactly a bad thing sometimes. Of course, if your whole meta's filled with it, it's pretty bad, but you know, for a little bit of nostalgia's sake, this deck did pretty well, and had a lot of fun using some of the newer cards, especially Cerberus was a lot of fun to actually mess around with, getting a basically reprint and rehash of a card, which is great. So if you did enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe. You'll find the deck list in the description below. Until next time, see ya.